Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are a group of one CC10 class, and we are going to present our ISAS about management file on Linux. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Kautsar Ramadhan, and these are my friends Fajar, Arifianto, Mustika, and Ilham Muharram. So in the chapter 1, basic theory, we will discuss about definition of Linux, advantage, disadvantage of Linux, and types of Linux distros. Definition of Linux. Linux is an operating system that uses the Linux kernel. The kernel itself is the smallest part of the operating system that is tasked with the management of the CPU, memory, and the other enhancements. Linux is an open source OS, which means Linux source code can be used, modified, and freely distributed by anyone. Linux license under the auspice of GNU are free. We do not need to spend the slightest if we want to use it. Every operating system has its own advantage and disadvantage. Linux, as an open source operating system, certainly has many advantages. Here are the advantages of Linux. For the first one is free license. Linux is an operating system that can be used by anyone for free. And then there is uses 32-bit code. By using code makes Linux work well and minimize the occurrence of crash when running applications. And number 3, high security level. Although open source, Linux has a high level of security compared to other operating system. With a high security system, with a high security system, make Linux safe from virus attacks that can be threatened computerized data. And then there is nice graphics display. In every version of type of Linux released, it is clear that Linux is very attentive in terms of graphics. Then Linux source code can be modified. The open source nature of Linux allows the source code of Linux to be modified. And then suitable as a server computer, Linux is a lightweight and stable operating system, so it is suitable for server computers, admin, and can also be a personal computer. And the last one, there is a lighter when run. Linux OS does not require large resources to run it. It can even run an old school computer. In addition to having the advantage mentioned lately, Linux also still has some disadvantage. There are needs more skills because Linux is still rarely used by general public, so there are no technicians who are able to troubleshoot problem in Linux. Then lack of software support. Some popular software that is often used by such as Microsoft Office, Adobe Photoshop, and other popular applications are not compatible in the Linux operating system. And the last one is the installation process and difficult configuration. The Linux installation process is slightly more difficult than Windows, except for some Linux distribution aimed at lay users such as Linux Mint. Types of Linux distro. A Linux distro is an operating system or software developed using the Linux kernel. There are various types of Linux distros, including Red Hat. Red Hat is a Linux distro and became the first operating system to use the RPM package manager system. Red Hat was developed by a company called Red Hat Inc. Then there is CentOS or Community Enterprise Operating System. It was developed by the CentOS project using source code from Red Hat. There is also Fedora. Fedora is a Linux distro sponsored by Red Hat, and the last one is OpenSUSE. This Linux distro was developed by the OpenSUSE project with the aim of making Linux performance more stable and user-friendly. Now we are going into the chapter 2, and we will discuss about management file Linux, file attributes, types of Linux files, managing files with Linux terminal, advantage and disadvantage of Linux, advantage and disadvantage of file management in Linux.
So, management file system on Linux as other Unix file system do not recognize the term drive as in DOS or Windows, such as drive C, drive D, and so on. The Linux file system uses a hierarchical and unified system that treats all files, directories, and device drivers, including disk drives, floppy disk, and CD-ROM drive, as file. This terminology is known as everything is file in Unix and Linux. The Linux file system supports file name up to 256 characters. The next, directory or file and their description. The slash character alone denotes the root of the file system tree. Slash bin stands for binrise and contains certain fundamental utility such as is or cp, which are generally needed by all users. Slash boot contains all the files that are required for successful booting process. Slash dev stands for device contain file representation of peripheral device and also pseudo device. Slash etc contains system-wide configuration file and system database. Originally also contained dangerous maintenance utility, such as init, but these have typically been moved to slash bin or elsewhere. Slash home contains the home directory for the user. Slash lib contains system libraries and some critical files such as kernel module or device driver. Slash media default mount point for removable device such as USB stick, media player, and many more. Slash mnt stand for mount content file system mount point. These are used, for example, if the system use multiple hard disks or hard disk partition. It's also often used for remote network file system, CD-ROM or DVD driver, and so on. Slash proc virtual file system showing information about process as file. Slash root the home directory for the superuser root, that is the system administrator. This home directory is usually on the initial file system and hence not in slash homes, which may be a mount point for another file system in case specific maintenance needs to be performed, during which other file systems are not available. Slash tmp, a place for temporary files. Main system clear this directory upon startup. It might have temps mount atop it, in which case its content do not survive a reboot, or it might explicitly cleared by a startup script at boot time. Slash user, originally the directory holding user home directories it use has changed. It now holds executables, libraries, and shared resources that are not system critical, like the X Windows system, KDE, Perl, and many more. However, on some Unix systems, some user accounts may still have a home directory that is a direct subdirectory of slash user, such as the default as the Minix is slash usr slash bin. This directory stores all binary program distributed with programming system not residing in slash bin, slash bin, or etc. Slash usr slash include stores the development headers used throughout the system. Header files are mostly used by the hashtag include directive in C or C++ programming language. Slash usr slash lib stores the required library and data file for programs stored within slash usr or elsewhere. Slash for a short for variable, a place for a file that may change often, especially in size. Slash var slash log contains system log file. Slash var slash mail, the place where all the incoming mails are stored. Slash var slash spool, spool directory contains print jobs, mail spool, and other required task. /var/tmp, a place for temporary files which should be preserved between system reboot. So file at reboot, the ordinary file. An ordinary file is a file on system that contain data, text, or program instruction, directories. Directories store both special and ordinary file. Special file used to present real physical device such as a printer, tape driver, or terminal, used for output or input I/O operation. Pipes Unix allow you to link commands together using a pipe. Socket, a Unix socket, is a special file which allows for advanced inter-process communication. Symbolic link is used for referencing some other file. The file system symbolic link is also known as soft link.
Managing file with Linux terminal. These are the example of some file management command in Linux. 1.pud command v sort for the friend working directory is a command the friend of the current working directory is in a hierarchy order. Begin with the top root directory slash point to touch command. The touch command is used for creating simple files on the Linux system. To create, use the syntax touch file name. For example, create a file 1.txt file, run the command is touch file 1.txt. To confirm the creation of the file, invoke is the command. And P is command. The S command is a command used for listing a setting file of or all folder in directory. For example, to list all content in the home directory, we will run the command. From the output, we can see the what we have to text file and egg folder which are usually created by default. After installing and logging in to the system, for cat command to view the content of a file, use the cat command as follows. 5. cv command. The cv command short for copies a file from one file location to another. Unlike the move command, the cv command retains the original file its current location and make a duplicate copy in the defined directory. cv flash file plus fetch definition plus fetch. For example, to copy the file 1.x from the current directory for file to the public // directory, issue the command cv file 1.t the public /dos. To copy the directory, use R option for reshuffle, copying the directory, including all its content. There is another directory called tutorial the web already have created. To copy this directory alongside its content, so the public /dos /pets run the command cp tutorial public /dos. And Fantech and dispense text of file management in Linux, and Fantech of Linux. Linux can interact with another operating systems, safer from virus attack, better security system than Windows. The executive of virtual memory /web, which makes Linux have the ability to run like Earth. From stability, Linux is more stable than Windows. Loads of support from the community, and this same text and the same text of Linux. The Linux is operating system in difficult to run, especially to those who do not have computer skills and not many applications that support Linux. The average of this operating system is not not much support from certain hardware.
And that's all from us. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah.